Hello, everyone. Philip Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. And today is Tuesday, the 28th of June, 2022. Click on the subscribe button here in the lower right to subscribe to future episodes, and also the notification bell in the far upper right to be notified when we have new episodes. So today's episode is Contemporary Northerners Admired Robert E. Lee. Although today's cultural elite disdain Robert E. Lee, they should realize that he was quite well respected by the Northerners of his day, despite being one of the leading enemy commanders during the Civil War. If contemporary Northerners could respect him when they had far more reason to hate him, today's demands that his statues be torn down should be recognized for what it truly is: phony virtue signaling over slavery, and which is really taken on the mantle more of vengeance than social justice. Consider the following examples. After Lee entered Maryland with his army in a campaign that would culminate in the Battle of Sharpsburg on September 17, 1862, he camped near Frederick, Maryland on September 7th. Many admirers showed up and showered him with invitations. He declined all but one, explaining that it might go hard on the host after the army moved on and it became known that they had entertained him. As his soldiers marched through town, some women even brought out food for them, although admittedly others sort of looked down their noses at the Confederates. Now, almost a year later, when Lee's army entered the Potomac River ford at Williamsport on June 25th, 1863, to begin its second northern invasion that would end at Gettysburg on July 1st through 3rd, 1863, three women awaited for him on the Maryland shore. Their spokesman, or spokesperson as it would be said today, stepped forward as Lee rode up. "This is General Lee, I presume." Lee admitted his identity. "General Lee," she went on, "allow me to present to you these ladies who are determined to give you this reception." Lee thanked her and introduced her to General Longstreet and General Pickett, whose flowing locks Lee would soon offer to sacrifice. Then came flowers, fair words, and ultimately a wreath the ladies bid to put on Traveler's neck. Lee balked, thinking a wreath might suit General Stuart and the cavalry, but was not proper for the leader of an army that was mostly infantry. After a parley, it was agreed that a staff officer would carry the wreath for the general. The next day, as he was riding through Hagerstown on his way to Chambersburg, Pennsylvania — Hagerstown was in Maryland — another crowd of ladies surrounded Traveler, despite a steady rain. They asked for a lock of the general's hair, but Lee demurred. This time, however, he pointed to General Pickett as a more suitable source compared to Lee's thinning gray hair. Later, one girl who was waving a Union flag in the downtown area in the town square as Lee passed was even heard to say, "Oh, I wish he were one of ours." "I wish he were ours," actually, is what she said. 4 days before the Battle of Gettysburg began on July 1st, 1863, Lee was encamped near Chambersburg on June 27th, when a lady visited him requesting that he make provision for the hungry in the town. She remained long enough to ask for his autograph. "Do you want the autograph of a rebel?" he asked in surprise. "General Lee," she retorted, "I am a true Union woman, yet I asked for bread and your autograph." "It is in your interest," he answered, "to be for the Union, and I hope you may be as firm in your principles as I am in mine." He added that his autograph might be a dangerous souvenir for her to possess, but when she insisted, he gave it to her. Surely, if the Northerners of his day could think highly of General Lee during the Civil War, today's academics set on destroying his reputation and assassinating his character are adopting a wicked intent merely to make themselves feel morally superior to those who continue to admire Lee. And that's really all it is. They seek to make themselves feel superior to any of us who may continue to admire Robert E. Lee. That's what it is. The hatred is really not towards Lee, it is toward us. And most of these professors, incidentally, I think it's important to note, are white. In fact, I would say a large majority of them are. And speaking from experience, I can testify that even 60 years ago, slavery was taught in the public schools of the South as an evil. There was nobody praising slavery at that time. But there were people that praised Lee, just as those ladies respected him during the Civil War. And there were people that praised Lee for his character, for his decisiveness, and for his willingness to take responsibility for his mistakes. I've said over and over again in these shows. At Gettysburg, he took responsibility for the failure, and that was his first failure, significant failure after taking command of the Army of Northern Virginia. He took that responsibility, and he did it in the presence of all the soldiers returning from Pickett's charge. And when he got the Army safely back in Virginia, he sent his resignation to President Jefferson Davis. And of course, Jefferson Davis turned it down. But today's Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, and General Mark Milley, who is head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the President of the United States, Joe Biden, deny all responsibility for the debacle in Afghanistan, which, if we had avoided, may have prevented Putin from taking aggressive action in the Ukraine. I believe that the complete incompetence and cowardly conduct of the president and Austin and Milley during the Afghanistan debacle gave Putin and other rivals for the United States and the world the impression that we would be weak if we were pushed. And so Biden decided to push into Ukraine. And now, of course, what we're discovering is that old Joe Biden was probably making illegal money out of his relations with the Ukraine, and even more so with those in China. Can you imagine being 79 years old and having a son who's a drug addict, and you continue to let him run amok? Be that as it may, I would recommend Company H by Sam Watkins. This is my version of it. And I've got about 250 annotations in here, as well as maps and illustrations. One of the reasons I decided to write this is that Sam Watkins tells a great story, but there's a number of tall tales in there. And I wanted to separate the tall tales from the real events, so that the reader could have a more accurate understanding of what really happened. I'm not really faulting Sam for his exaggerations, because I think, well, you can't fault him for the accuracy of what he reports because of those exaggerations, but those exaggerations really give an impression of what he was feeling as a soldier during combat. That's, I think, a significant point. Nonetheless, you can, if you'd like an autographed copy, contact me, Phil, PHIL_Lee, LEIGH at me.com. Otherwise, you can buy it at Barnes & Noble and Amazon for, I think, $16. And there's also, I think, a Kindle version as well. That is our show for today. And thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time.